On Overdrive today, we ride the latest 100cc Honda Shine, tell you how different the Toyota Innova Crysta is from the Hycross, and we check out the Audi Q3 Sportback. Hello and welcome to Overdrive. I'm Soini Dutt. To say that it has taken Honda a while to enter the 100cc commuter segment is quite an understatement. In fact, Honda has finally entered the space with the 100cc Shine. Now, it is a simple, petite and a very basic motorcycle. So here's Chris telling us what this motorcycle is all about.
The Honda Shine 125cc, well, that commuter motorcycle did very well for itself ever since the company came out with it back in 2006. Now, since then, it has been the hottest selling Honda two-wheeler motorcycle the company has ever seen out here in India. Why? Because it was a very compelling package, because it was frugal, comfortable and very affordably priced. Now, Honda have gone one step further with the same package with this motorcycle that we have out here today. This is the Honda 100cc Shine. And well, how does this motorcycle fare in today's world? Well, we have a short while to find out. So let's get right to it. In terms of its design, the 100cc Shine resembles the silhouette of the bigger 125cc Honda Shine. Its theme isn't all new or very exciting, but overall, it's not the worst thing to look at out on the road either. A quick glance over this bike and you can tell of its basic A to B commuter motorcycle origins with minimal frills. You get alloy wheels at both ends, but no tubeless tires or disc brakes, not even as an option. Then you get halogen bulbs all around without any of those fancy looking LED DRLs anywhere around. So there's function over form definitely with this one. The instrumentation, well, that's all analog. And like the switchgear, well, it feels of an older era and very basic. Although its overall levels of fit and finish are just about acceptable in today's standards with no real complaints, well, it still feels like a motorcycle that precedes the digital and Bluetooth era, and there's even evidence of cost savings all over this Honda too. Like for instance, the lack of a kill switch on the right side of the handlebar. Then there's the rider's foot pegs which don't fold back, so you could hurt your legs if you're pushing the bike using your feet. And the rear shocks, well, they aren't adjustable. But this is more or less acceptable in today's standards because this is what the motorcycle is meant to be. It's one of those less is more bikes where simplicity is the name of its game. It's one of those workhorses that fly under everyone's radar. Now, powering the 100cc Honda Shine is the all-new 99cc single-cylinder air-cooled motor, which makes around a little over 7 PS of max power and 8 Nm of max torque. Speeds of around 50 kmph, well, this motorcycle feels very comfortable. But once you cross that threshold, well, things tend to get a little gruff. It's not all that refined. Not as refined as I would have liked it, but still, it fares decently going up gradients and such. It's a smooth engine, feels quite frugal given what this motorcycle is set out to do. But then again, given the brakes and the way this motorcycle is set up, it's not really built for speed. Even if you do find the time and space to get this bike's speedo needle to cross that 80 kmph indication mark on the dial, well, braking in time will almost always be an issue because although there's CBS or combined braking, well, you don't have that reassuring feeling or consistency of a disc brake at either end of this bike. The 100cc Shine's engine is very tractable for the city, and even though it's got just 4 gears, it feels like it's a motorcycle that will allow you to potter in and around town in comfort at the speed of 50 all day. In fact, that's one of the main USPs of this motorcycle, its level of ride comfort. The Shine 100 feels light on its feet, and with a small 9-litre tank between your knees, it's so easy to manage. It's got a great turning radius too, so getting through tight gaps in standstill traffic will be a doozy. The suspension is very absorbent and it will keep you isolated from a good amount of the rough stuff that you will encounter out on the road, provided that you're taking it all on at the right speed. Go any faster than required with a pillion aboard and things can get bouncy and very uncomfortable. The flattish single bench is a tad narrow, still very accommodating, and you could spend a good amount of time in the saddle with no complaints. Obviously, the Shine 100, well, it's no corner carving scalpel, and you'll definitely want to refrain from taking on bends at high speed on this one. Overall, it does everything that you'd expect from a commuter motorcycle of this sort, just that it doesn't feel exemplary or excel at any particular riding aspect. Apart from maybe the mileage, of course, but we didn't have time to check that out today. But maybe that's what these motorcycles or this type of motorcycle are all about, keeping things simple and tidy. Now the 100cc Honda Shine, well, it costs around 65,000 rupees ex-showroom India, and that's a good 15,000 rupees cheaper than the 125cc version of the same motorcycle. To sum it up, is it great to look at? No. Does it have a good amount of features? Honestly, it's lacking a certain bit. But then again, what it sets out to do, this A to B commuter motorcycle, it's easy to manage, it's very comfortable, well, it's very light and easy out on the road, and it does manage to do what it sets out to do pretty well. But the crux of the matter with this motorcycle, a commuter motorcycle of this caliber, well, the main USP has to be its frugality, well, its mileage and how much you get in return in terms of kilometers. But we can't really test that out today because of a limited time that we have with this motorcycle. But then again, given its price, it is competitively priced and it does seem like a pretty decent package out on the road for what it set out to do.
In this very busy commuter space, the Honda Shine will be competing against the likes of the Hero Splendor Plus, the Hero HF Deluxe and also the Bajaj Platina 100. We'll be back very shortly after this break to tell you about Toyota Innova Crysta competing against the Toyota Innova Hycross. Stay with us, you're watching Overdrive. Welcome back here with us on Overdrive. We took two generations of the Toyota Innova to find out which of them excels at what department.
The Toyota Collis and various generations of the Toyota Innova in their respective times were the vehicles of choice for touring in our country. They were the quintessential workhorses, so to say. Of course, things got a little fancy with the Innova Crysta, but it was an instant hit, not just in the fleet segment, but also with the private buyers. Like its predecessors, it had a reliable and robust engine. It also came with tons of space and excellent comfort. It had a balanced ride quality as well. That is what made it so likable. Now, there's a new Innova. It's still called an Innova, but it uses a completely different formula. Instead of a diesel, this one has a petrol hybrid. Instead of a body-on-frame, this one uses a monocoque, and it's front-wheel driven instead of a rear-wheel drive. So, can it still surpass the champion? Can it still ensure that all the attributes that made it so likable are continued with this car as well? That's what we are here to find out.
Cabin space and comfort are facets that help the Innova Crysta give entry-level luxury cars a run for their money. And the Hycross pushes that envelope further. While the headroom and the legroom remain comparable to the Crysta in terms of pure measurements, the ventilated front seats and the Ottoman-style rear seats with electrical adjustments make the seating experience plusher than the Crysta. Ingress and egress into the third row aren't as easy as the Crysta though, but the third row in itself is more comfortable, making the Hycross the better cabin to be in. The monocoque chassis makes the Hycross a better handler around winding roads, and the larger glass house is likely to reduce the effects of motion sickness compared to the Crysta. It's also the easier car to maneuver in traffic and city environment, has a more commanding view of the road like an SUV, and the slow speed ride is cushier in the Hycross than the Crysta. But the ladder frame in the older Innova Crysta makes it more comfortable over poor road conditions or when tackling B roads or even broken pathways, though the ground clearance between the two cars is comparable. The Crysta also feels more solid at highway speeds than the Hycross, which tends to wallow and bob if you aren't running a full house. Speaking of it, both cars have plenty of boot space for a family of 4. And though the boot aperture width and the loading lip height are comparable between the two, the Hycross edges ahead with its flat folding split third row. Long distance journeys with all the 3 rows occupied though leave hardly any room for luggage. No matter what powertrain you choose with the Hycross, petrol or hybrid, its refinement outshines any of the powertrains offered by the Crysta.
But like the ride quality, even the fuel economy is a mixed bag. Yet again, the Hycross hybrid shines in the city with a phenomenal economy. We saw over 23 kilometers to a litre consistently thanks to the battery assistance, which almost works like an EV at city speeds. On the highway though, the Crysta's diesel powertrain raked better fuel economy figures, but only marginally. The only department where the powertrain outshines the Hycross is the torque delivery. But the torque fill offered by the Hycross's hybrid variant leaves very little room for complaint. In the long run then, the Hycross hybrid could end up offering far better value than even the Crysta diesel. Those frequenting the highways or running a fleet of taxis could still find more value in the Crysta diesel though, considering the high asking price of the Hycross hybrid. And that is the reason why the Crysta will still continue to enjoy big numbers. But that said, many fleet operators also tell us that the premium can be offset in the long run, as the more comfortable seating of the Hycross will enable them to charge higher tariffs. Add to it the lower spares and the service costs at Toyota, and the Hycross becomes a compelling alternative to even the likes of the Kia Carnival, Skoda Kodiaq, and even the Mercedes-Benz GLB if you're looking for a plush 3-row offering. Let us know, what do you think?
Time to head into our final break here on the show, but coming up on the other side, we tell you what's new in the Audi Q3 Sportback. Stay with us, you're watching Overdrive. Welcome back, here with us on Overdrive. Within months of the Audi Q3 making it down to India, the Audi Q3 Sportback has also followed onto our shores, and mechanically the SUV remains the same. So why should we pick the Q3 Sportback over the Q3? Let's find out.
Now, if you want a small luxury SUV in India, you're pretty much sorted with an option to choose from every major car brand that there is in the luxury segment. But if you want that striking coupe SUV shape, that's not quite the case. But that changes now with the Audi Q3 Sportback. It's the first of its kind in its segment, and today we'll tell you what it's like. Now, the Audi Q3 Sportback is slightly longer and slightly lower than the regular Q3, and that's gone into creating this section here. Now, needless to say, this really is the center of attention of this SUV, and it's what catches your eye immediately when you look at it first. And that's because of this heavily raked windscreen, which then in the way merges with this short deck over here along with these haunches. So it's a really aggressive shape. As you keep coming below, you notice that this tail lamp unit is very similar to the regular Q3, maybe a slightly slimmer one would have gone better with the rest of the design. But then below you notice this bumper design, which is from the S-Line package that is standard with this variant. And that's really quite aggressive again with these 4 diffuser elements, this silver sort of accenting here. So yeah, the Q3 Sportback really does look quite sharp from the back side at least. The S-Line styling package also gets you a dark meshed grille with silver highlights as well as large triangular silver accents on the bumpers. The quite plain 18-inch alloys of the SUV have been replaced by a more aggressive design. In profile, also noticeable is the more elongated teardrop glass area that enhances the sense of length with the Sportback. Now, this added dose of style hasn't come at the cost of practicality. Audi says that you'll still get a 530-litre boot, same as the regular Q3, but of course in the real world, with this sloping boot lid, you will not be able to stack as many boxes or as many bags as you could in the regular Q3. But other than that, the space itself is similarly flat and usable like in the regular Q3. Now, from where I'm sitting, there's really not that much that's different between the Q3 Sportback and the regular Q3. Yes, you do get these S-Line sill plates, but other than that, there could have been maybe, sportier S-Line seats, maybe an all black, a slightly different interior theme or aluminium pedals, to build that sportier atmosphere that's already present with the changes that have been made outside of this coupe SUV. You get that same sharp-edged and technical-looking design with quite a dose of functionality thrown in. The sense of quality is typically Audi too, with hefty switches, tight panel gaps all around and top-tier materials. There's also good space for storage. Now, the 2680mm wheelbase of the Audi Q3 Sportback is again exactly the same as the regular Q3, which means that the big increases in legroom and kneeroom that you saw with that new SUV continues here as well. As you can see, there's a lot of space here. Similarly, these seats, they give you a lot of under-thigh support. The seat back angle is also quite right. It's very well cushioned. But yeah, it's best for two people. Again, like the regular Q3, because of this small, small middle seat and this big hump. Now, yes, where the problems do happen or where there is a compromise to be made is in terms of headroom. And Audi has done well here. It has scooped out the headlining quite a bit. So yeah, if you're not extremely tall, it won't be a problem. But yeah, you are trading off some amount of headroom and an area cabin for that striking look that you get on the outside. It's again the same with the amenities that you get here. So yeah, the missing USB ports are still an issue, but you get this nice center armrest with these cup holders, and yeah, also these nice storage pockets on the sides and here, as well as in the doors obviously. So it's still a reasonably practical space, the rear seat of the Q3 Sportback. The Q3 Sportback is available in a single Technology Plus trim, which gives it equipment like a 10.1-inch touchscreen, a 12.3-inch digital instrument cluster, powered front seats with lumbar adjustment, dual zone climate control, wireless charging, leather upholstery, ambient lighting and 6 airbags. Now the Q3 Sportback is mechanically identical to the regular Q3. So again, it's powered by the same 2-litre turbo petrol that we've seen in many Audis and other VW products, with its 190 PS and 320 Newton meters. And here it's paired with the Quattro all-wheel drive system and the 7-speed DCT. So on the move, again, it's a familiar driving experience. So like the regular Q3, it's not the quietest. The engine is not the most refined of cars in this segment. But again, that's really not a problem once you see how easily the performance is on offer. So shifts work how most of these DCTs work nowadays. They're just in the background, you don't really notice it. The engine will give you performance as soon as you want it, like this. So the shifts are quite snappy, at least in the normal and this auto or even in the sport mode. Yes, in the efficiency mode it goes into a coasting setting which boosts mileage quite a bit on the highway. So yeah, there the shifts aren't quite as snappy, but you do get reasonably good fuel economy out of this car. So yeah, when you're going about town, there's no problem at all. It's giving you power whenever you need it, however you need it. And similarly, the ride and handling character is really not that different from the regular Q3. So as long as the roads are smooth, you'll just go along quite solidly, with quite a bit of confidence like we are right now. And yes, when the roads do get rough, you do move around a little bit inside. There's some thudding that comes through, but for example right now. But again, it's not something out of the ordinary that we've seen in Audi before. And the handling again is very typically Audi's. So yeah, the Quattro all-wheel drive does give you that sense of security, especially when you're, say, driving on a hilly road and so on and so forth. But on a normal road like this, the steering in any of the modes, it's quite well judged. So it's not overly light and also not overly heavy. So it's just right, so it's precise, so you know what the car is doing reasonably well. The suspension, again, as speeds rise, it becomes more pliant. It's still slightly on the softer side, so you do notice some body movements. But again, it's nothing that will, take you off guard or anything like that. So like the regular Q3, the Q3 Sportback is also quite a straightforward, easy to drive car. At Rs 51.43 lakh, the Audi Q3 Sportback is an expensive proposition. It's Rs 1.04 lakh more than the equivalent Q3, but doesn't have any direct rivals. So you will stand out in a crowd, which is pretty much this SUV's brief. Now it's up to you to decide if the extra money spent is worth the attention, since the Q3 Sportback has the specs, features and driving character to match the more traditional SUVs it will be judged against.
Well, with that, it's time for us to wrap up this week's edition of Overdrive. But remember, you can stay in touch with the team through Facebook, Twitter as well as YouTube. And you can follow our latest updates on Instagram. We'll see you next week. Until then, goodbye. Many thanks for watching.